Hey, I'm back. It's almost, we were just figuring out how long it's been since I did the first video, and it feels like the 7-year itch. So it's probably been 7 years since I've done the first video with dear David. So a lot has transpired during that time. I've gotten younger, as you can see, because it's just a magic pill. And I'm going through a separation. Shocker, not really, which is actually incredibly liberating and an experience in its own. And my kids were back then teenagers, they're now in 21 and 23. So young men, bearded, gruffy faces, and still giving me a run for my money. And what do I do in this incredible year which is coming to a close of COVID? Well, I adjusted to it pretty well because with the work I do, which is nutrition, I can do it from home. But to be honest, I haven't done that much. I'm just ramping up now for the next year. And other than that, I really am taking the time to let life unfold. And it comes in layers, like everything. So I'm now half a century plus a year, which is an accomplishment, I guess, in itself, even though that shit just happens. It's not like, I can say, oh, I did it, but, I have two brothers who didn't. So in that regard, I guess I did it. Oh, I'm still here. I'm still standing. Oh, actually, I'm sitting right now. And I'm sitting up straight as much as I can. Yeah, I think life has gotten way more colorful for me. It's not like the new Doro. It's almost like I'm getting connected to the old Doro again, of not being distracted, being a wife, a mother, doing all of that jazz. Of really going, oh, who am I? I sometimes feel like I'm sort of 13, 14, maybe early 20s, depending on the day when I'm looking at my boys, what they're trying to figure out with their lives. I'm in a very similar stage, just with a little bit more mileage on my tires. And it is at times disconcerting, and at times it's so fucking exciting that I go like, I have all that possibility. I mean, it all can happen, whatever I choose, whatever I want to create. And then I go like, oh fuck, that's possible? Yeah, no, yes. So I have these conversations with myself a lot, which is pretty funny. And sometimes I get a headache from that because the thoughts are circling around in my round head. And then sometimes I hold on to one thought, which is good, and then try to discard the others, and they creep back in and, tell me shit. What did Buddha say once? Didn't he say something like, don't believe everything you're thinking? That's what I'm trying to work on. And it's hard when you trained yourself for years and years to believe what you're thinking, and it ended up being a shit show. So now it's really about recreating or newly creating a life full of potential with a little bit of more maturity, we hope. I'm not sure about that, but I hope. And the possibilities which lie ahead, which are sometimes a little overwhelming, and I'm going to stick with the word exciting, because everything else just would put a damper on things. So how was the last year for me, COVID year, as we all call it? It was interesting. At first I thought when they were shutting down all the borders, and I was like, okay, that's like war, I mean, you only really shut down borders when there's a wartime. And I was like, oh fuck, I'm going to be stuck in this country. And with, Orange Head and all of that. But I don't want to get into politics because they're usually lame and they do what they want anyway and not really asking us any questions if we want to participate. I mean, they do want us to participate, but not really. So it's been a year of, coming to myself, slowing down, and really looking at what's important. Now, what's important is really experiences and connection with other people. If that's not there for me, I know that I don't do well. So I have the really beautiful group of friends around me who are still willing to see me after all these years. Could have been the other way. I said, Doro, okay, time to go. And they just, chose as well to be my pod, or whatever we're calling it nowadays, of hanging out, having good times, and just be. Not have any intentions, no more self-work, at least when I'm with them. And, because we're all trying to better ourselves, but how much fucking better can I get? Just kidding. So, to just be with people, have good conversations, something new, something different. And one big thing I've really fostered more is my male friendships, because while I was married, that kind of didn't exist. And it's something I've always missed, especially after my brother died. Not having that kind of male input in your life makes it incredibly one-sided. And it is a little boring, because there is so much to learn from our lovely male friends, which in our world where I feel it is very separated, it's not a healthy thing to be, And, I'm a woman, obviously, and I identify as one as well, and all of that jazz, and I don't even know all of the other synonyms for that, but, we think in a certain way. And that's good, and it's positive, and it's sometimes overwhelming, and it can be emotional, and all of what goes with it, and it's all good, period. People say, oh, it's this, it's that. No, it's good. It's good. It's just how it is. There's nothing wrong with it. Yet, if I don't have the experience how a man's brain works as a friend, not just as a lover or a partner, then I'm just missing out of a world and a perspective which I really treasure. And it puts me sometimes as well in the place where I need to be, of just staying in my femininity. And that's what the correlation between men and women really is really that playfulness with being with each other, and learning then to be in your own power there, because it's a good thing. And if we're all too segregated in that way, we don't know what that means. So that's been something I've been exploring and really enjoying, because it's enriching my life in such a way that I didn't think it's possible anymore. But now that I'm free, careless, and don't give a fuck, I can do whatever I want. As I told David before, I'm the one in this adult, I'm the adult in this relationship. And I have to remind myself of that in every way, because sometimes I shrug my responsibilities as well. But since I'm the adult, I'm gonna have to get up and do the things. And being together for COVID in this beautiful house I live in with two young men, that's different. My boys are different than a male friend. They give me a lot of shit. I'm their mom. What do you expect? But it's been an incredible blessing to have that time with them too, because we all had to rally in a different way. And I think the biggest way I can explain it on is when we had Thanksgiving, which is not necessarily my favorite holiday, but I love food, so that part is good, of really making sure that they understand that when you're creating something like a festivity, that is something where everybody participates. And it's not like you show up, you eat and leave. No, you're doing this together, because then it becomes fun. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. So they were sous chefing, they were cleaning up, they were preparing the room with me, and they were hanging out with me. And yes, we did smoke a joint. So which helped, you know, and no, I didn't burn the food, which often happens if I do that. But now they're really learning to understand as young men that when you have a situation of a social gathering, it's something you create. If you want to have it, you have to create it. And then it is really important to have the people around you. And I feel that it's the same thing with life and per se. That when you want to create something, you want to invite those people around, you know, you into it who want to participate and contribute. Because that makes the experience so rich. And now we're living in this time where so many people are isolated, and it is a choice, you know, of being isolated. And I'm not saying don't be careful, but it's a choice. Isolation for me, though, and I've had a certain amount of that during my life, is a very, it's a very hard thing to do and stay well. You know, most of us, when we're isolated, we're social beings. You know, we get so much from the energy exchange, whether it's a conversation, whether it's a touch, whether it's just sitting next to each other. You know, we get something out of it all the time. And yeah, there's those people as well where you realize it's better that they're not there because they're actually taking away, they don't contribute. And really honing into that skill of being aware, who is that, then you really know how to create your life and the people around you, and then invite them into your life, and then therefore it becomes rich. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people, but it needs to be those really important people to you who actually do the things from contributing and participating and making an experience meaningful. And please, be funny, you know, tell me a joke. Can it be crude? Yes, but it had better have a good punchline, because otherwise, you know, I'll roll my eyes and go like, okay, I have teenage boys, or had them, you know. So this year has been not all bad, you know, and the reason for that as well is because I'm lucky, and the other reason is because I turned off my TV, or I don't have a TV, because my peace of mind is really, really important, and it's something I create. And it took me a long time to understand that. You know, it is one of those things, you know, I guess some of us have it innately, and then others need a fucking long time to learn it, and I'm one of them. That my peace of mind is something I create and I have control over at all times. And then if something happens, I really have a choice how to deal with it. I just have to remind myself that I actually do have that choice. And when I am able to do that, I can step out of it and not be reactionary, which of course doesn't always happen, you know, but it's a practice, you know. And like with everything else, you can get better at that. And I think a little bit of couple of miles on one's life helps just to put things in perspective. And the other thing I've been doing this year a lot is I'm referring a lot to my grandmother, so I'm from Germany. And my grandmother went through 2 wars. So once, the First World War, she was a teenager herself, and the second one, she had a teenager. And when I'm looking at lives like that, whatever I'm doing is a piece of cake. You know, it is simple. I still have a roof over my head. I didn't have to leave anybody behind. You know, I didn't have to pack everything and go and have like the few things I can carry and go with me in somewhere. You know, I just had to readjust to a lifestyle which was different than before. And that really was it. And choose to turn off the TV or the information coming into my house, which is unsettling, and pick and choose of what do I want to digest on information and what's valuable to me and how can it be used to activate my life in a better way. And that's how the year has been. And I did have the fortune of actually traveling once to California to see my step-granddaughter, I guess, you know, and they needed help, so I flew and it was fine. And And I did have my kids around me, so which makes life not always easier, but it is definitely more fun than just being by myself, because I find myself only that interesting. Because I live with myself all the time, you know, that's the person I go to sleep with, and that's the person I wake up with, and then I'm with her all day long. And the thought patterns I have are often repetitive, so it's not really new, so it's nice to have someone to exchange thoughts with, because then I get new impulses. And that makes my life then a bit more interesting, and then I have something to ponder on. And then as for the last 7 years, so 7 is my lucky number. I'm number 7. I'm the youngest of 7 children. So the last 7 years, you know, what changed, what transformed? Well, my marriage dissolved, and that was good so. Now we're both free, and we can be happy and choose to not be upset with the other one anymore, because it's so easy to blame a partner for whatever is happening in your life, because they're there, and you've got to blame someone, you know. You don't really want to blame the kids because, you know, I created them, you know, in a way. But your partner is easy to blame. And then you just realize eventually, how honest are we all with ourselves? You know, that's a good question for me. And having worked through so many things, because I was really unhappy, and I go, okay, if I'm unhappy, I'm creating that. No matter who my partner is. And why am I creating it? Because I didn't want to be in a relationship. I realized, you know, it didn't give me what I wanted, and it gave me more stress than I really liked. So, you know, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but realizing that it's my responsibility has really helped me with this whole transition. Because if I'm not creating it, it's not going to happen. So if I want something, I'm going to have to figure out how to create it. And then, of course, the smartest thing to do is to ask your friends, or, you know, for help when you need help. Because why do things alone? You know, nothing has happened when someone does it all by themselves, except when you want to be a hermit and you go meditate in a cave. That you do alone. But I don't know if I would want to do that. You know, it's not really my calling. So what I do is I teach people about nutrition, and that's something I really enjoy. I love cooking. I cook too much. I can't eat it all. I should probably invite you all for dinner over so you can eat the leftovers. And as well, just really understand what is nourishment. And nourishment is something we all need. And it starts with food because it's the simplest way of nourishment. And what is good for me is not necessarily good for you, depending on who you are. But nourishment is so much bigger than just food, you know, especially when you're talking in terms of healing. Nourishment is important because you need all the right cofactors to build those amazing building blocks of our bodies we live in. But then there's always more. And the more is really the connection to your soul, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it might be energy. And then it's really connection to other human beings. Being part of a community is crucial. It's crucial. It can be, depending if you're in the wrong community, devastating, and then you have to choose a new one. And that's where we're coming back to really having to create our own community. And there we can pick and choose. And community doesn't stay. You know, if I don't talk to David ever, we just won't talk. You know, but if I reach out and make the connection, there it is. And so it is with everybody else in one's life. And it takes a little effort, you know, and with some people it's easier than with others, but so is everything in life. If we would do everything which is easy, I don't know. would we grow more? Would we learn more? Maybe, you know. You know, of course, some people's lives are always easier than others, but when I'm exchanging stories with people, I learn so much. There's so much going on. People have endured such different stories, and then you can see whether they use the story to empower themselves or to diminish. And I've had a story in my head where I diminished myself for a really long time, and fuck shit, that's over now. I think I'm good.